Hey everybody at PEG. It's Georgia Weedman. I was class of 2006, so that makes me feel really old that I've been out of school for, well, with grad school, almost exactly 10 years. It feels like yesterday, seriously. It really does. Best time of my life, really. I mean, people say it that like college is the best time or high school is the best time. So I did high school and college together like you guys are doing, and definitely the best time. Enjoy it while it lasts. So yeah, I have a list of questions and I'm not very good at following directions, so I will probably just like go off on a tangent and talk about the stuff I really want to talk about, but I'll try to make sure I answer all the questions. So let's see, first I'm supposed to do an intro and a fun fact about me. Well, I already told you my name. I'm Georgia, class of 2006, and let's see, I am a cybersecurity person. I wrote this book called Penetration Testing, A Hands-On Introduction to Hacking. This is, obviously doesn't say that. This is the Polish edition, I think, and I think that's Chinese. My publisher actually won't send me any more of the English edition because I am on deadline to put out the second edition of the book, so I'm redoing it. And yeah, I am kind of behind, so they're like, no more books for you. So I have to show all the other languages, but we're out in, I think, 5 languages now. We're in Portuguese for Brazil, we're in China, Korea, Poland, and English. I feel like there's another one. I don't know. But yeah, so that's kind of a fun fact, I guess, that I have a book out in multiple languages, which is cool, I guess. Anyway, all right, so yeah, cybersecurity. I own a couple companies, Bulb Security and Shavira. One of them's a consulting company where I do my penetration testing. Yes, I know that's funny. If you guys are anything like we were, we called PEG Program for the Erotically Gifted, not Program for the Exceptionally Gifted, and we, being 14, 15, we thought we were so cool. So, obviously my industry at least has never grown out of that because what I do is called penetration testing and people giggle. So basically I play the attacker. So I am the bad guy. I'm the one who steals all your stuff, and instead of actually stealing your stuff, I help you fix it. So I am the bad guy in cyber, but for good. So that's what I do mainly. Also do some trainings or teach other people how to do it, write books about it. I also build product. My research area is mobile security. So, with the pandemic and everything, kind of a big deal all of a sudden, the security of our own mobile devices and Internet of Things devices and the cloud and all those things that industry really ignored for a really long time, and government just by not allowing people to use it. But obviously now that doesn't work because people work at home. So yeah, I build product around, testing the security of mobility and the Internet of Things. This was supposed to be a fun fact about me. None of those are particularly fun per se. Anyhow, fun fact about me. I don't know. I think, probably most of the people who worked at PEG when I was there thought I probably wouldn't live to graduation. I was actually really kind of surprised that I got asked to do this, and really honored because, I guess that means I've done well in my life or something, that I would be asked to talk to new PEGs. So yeah, so fun fact, I was not exactly the most popular among the PEG staff when I was a student at PEG, because I had tons of emotional maturity when I was like 14, 15. Tons, absolute tons. That was complete sarcasm. I was also, an undiagnosed autistic person at the time, which probably had something to do with it. I always knew I was weird, and maybe a bit weirder than even all the other weird kids who came to PEG, because, let's face it, it takes a certain, you have to want to, 1, leave high school, and 2, your parents have to be down with it, and 3, you have to have the grades for it. So, I think it takes a certain personality type. I think I was not the only undiagnosed autistic kid in PEG at the time, but, yeah, so there's that. So there's my fun fact. I was definitely undiagnosed autistic at the time. Have been diagnosed now, which, I'll roll with it. I guess I've accepted my weirdness. You know, I always wanted to fit in the box. I wanted to be, you know, before I went to PEG, and it was like, I'm from Mississippi, so, you know, it was like, you want to be a cheerleader. You definitely don't want to be smart if you're a girl. You want to be a cheerleader, you want to be, like, real pretty, and I wanted to fit in that box and be popular, but I could never pull it off. But, you know, as I've gotten older, I've realized, you know, embrace my inner, like, weirdo. You know, it's a lot of the good stuff about me is, you know, in that same category. So anyway, what did you study when you were at PEG? So I was, at the end of it all, I was a math major. At the beginning, I was a physics major. At the middle of it, I was combined math and computer science. I ultimately ended up doing just math as my major, because I wanted to do, you know, math research. So I guess for math computer science, you did a computer science thesis, and I wanted to do, you know, I had a math thesis in mind that actually ended up being published. It's probably around here somewhere. My office is a disaster of old papers. And yeah, I actually published my senior thesis in the Journal of the Institute of Combinatorics and its Applications. I have no idea what any of it means now. Like, I have copies of it, and I'm like, yeah, these are just like equations. But at the time, you know, I was really into graph theory and combinatorics, so I ended up doing math so I could do the math thesis, and it did end up being published. That was my first publication, so that was pretty cool. And what I really did like, I hope they still have this now, especially since they have PEG, that I really liked the general education requirements that Mary Baldwin had. You know, that I had to take literature classes, and I had to take, you know, music theory, and I had to take you know, international studies and women's studies, and, you know, I had to take a couple classes in a lot of different things, you know, especially skipping high school. I think, you know, my parents were right. My parents were very much, you got to do something in STEM, you got to do something that you can get a job in, and, you know, in hindsight, they were totally right. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really glad that I did, you know, have to take those other classes, because I'm really interested in a lot of stuff. I love history, I love literature, I love art, but you know, I would have missed a lot of that, I think, if I had, you know, just gone to, you know, more of a traditional university where you don't really have a lot of general education requirements. You really just focus on your major. So I thought that was really important as well, and, you know, something that was really big for me. And let's see, what were you involved in? Well, I was involved in wasting time and video games, and definitely things that PEG staff didn't like, but what else are you supposed to do when you're a teenager? Whatever. I was involved in the student government a lot. You know, I did the Senate, and then I was on a committee, and I ran for vice president of SGA. Mainly, I think I was obsessed with the gavel, the vice president of SGA, at least at the time, was president of the Senate. So, you know, I wanted to sit up front with the gavel. But I didn't win, but you know, I was in the SGA, and, you know, like I said, I spent a lot of time doing math once I finally, like, found, you know, that I really liked doing math research, which, you know, later in life led to, you know, computer security research, which is very similar, oddly enough. And yeah, so my senior year, because I was doing graph theory, I could be found with sidewalk chalk, you know, outside one of the dorms, making graphs, which I'm sure people thought was really weird, but that was that. So yeah, that, you know, I did a little of this, a little of that, and, you know, I think that it was, you know, I was talking to somebody else, like, completely unrelated to this, about, you know, my PEG experience, and how, I guess, coming from, you know, my family was really, like, not big into, you know, you have to fit into, like, gender roles. I was always, you know, told I could be whatever I wanted, though I should do STEM so I can make money. But, you know, the idea that girls can't computer was never anything. My mom had a PhD in computer science, so, you know, the whole girls can't computer or girls can't do this, you know, it never really computed. And, you know, then I went to, you know, PEG, where it was all girls, and it was, you know, the same thing, the idea that, you know, women and girls couldn't accomplish things, just never computed. It wasn't until I went to grad school that I even, like, ran into that. And I think that it really helped growing up, going through my, late adolescence, my early teenage years, or I guess middle teenage years, whatever you want to call it, in that environment where, the president of the student body was female, the other people in your classes were female. I mean, yeah, there were some male professors, there were male security guards. I mean, there were males, you could find them. But, the whole patriarchy and male gaze and a lot of that stuff, I mean, it just wasn't there. You could be yourself, experiment with yourself. You could dye your hair blue and, not wear makeup, or wear lots of makeup if you wanted to, or dress, however you wanted to dress, really get to figure out who you were, which I think a lot of us in PEG especially were, really trying to figure ourselves out. And you could do all that, and there really wasn't all that, societal, I don't want to say bad words, but, all that societal nonsense that, you deal with in so much of the world. So it was kind of like this really, I don't want to say utopian, but in a way kind of it was that, we kind of had this world outside of the world where we were allowed to grow up. And, if you got drunk, which, let's face it, most teenagers do, the worst thing that was going to happen to you is you were going to, like, pass out in a bush or something. And, camera phones were hardly even a thing yet, so there wasn't even going to be any evidence. So, this was the idyllic time, like, right as Facebook was coming out. We had LiveJournal. LiveJournal was really big when I was in PEG. And Facebook came out, like, towards the end, but it wasn't, the ubiquitous thing it is today. So, I mean, I really feel like you could really find yourself in PEG. And, the kinds of consequences that, when I went to grad school and, speaking to, people who went to co-ed, a lot of the bigger schools, your options of what was going to happen to you if you got wasted at a party were somewhat different. So I really think I benefited from that, being able to, find myself in that environment. So, I mean, there's that. So what'd you do after graduating from PEG? All right. So first I went to grad school for a year in math, because I did math on undergrad. And I quickly realized that I was not going to be Einstein or John Nash or, somebody else who's like sitting in the Institute for Advanced Study and, doing research all day, which is really what I wanted to do. I was much more likely to end up teaching like pre-calculus to community college kids who really didn't even want to be there, and I didn't want to do that. So I actually had got recruited to go do cybersecurity at James Madison, which is not that far from Mary Baldwin. So, I could still go visit for the Airband show and things like that. I don't know if you guys have the Airband show anymore. I know you guys don't have Apple Eve anymore. Probably for the best. Apple Eve was interesting. But yeah, I went to grad school and got a master's in cybersecurity at James Madison, and really it was just, I didn't want to go back and live with my parents, and I didn't really know how to find a job. I really think that, that was one of the things that I really hope has changed, is that there wasn't really a lot of career fair and stuff for Mary Baldwin in general, much less for PEG. So, being 17, 18, have a college degree, no work experience whatsoever. I didn't really know how to translate that into a job. So, grad school was really the option that one had. So, Jamie, you said I could go there for free. So it was like, okay, I'll go do that. But it worked out well because I found, I guess my calling, if you will. So yeah, I ended up doing 3 years of grad school. So 1 of math and then 2 in computer science. So I guess I was 20 when I got out. So about, if I had, I guess, left after 11th grade and then did undergrad, I had a master's, so that helped. And let's see, what do I do now? So I kind of talked about that in my intro. I do cybersecurity, I do research, I do lectures. I'm not really traveling right now, obviously, but I did last year manage to get my 6 continents. So I've spoken on 6 continents now. I've not done Antarctica yet, but maybe someday I'll go on a conference cruise or something and go give a talk in Antarctica. But yeah, I give lectures, I teach, I actually am a professor at University of Maryland. I only teach online though. And yeah, I, have my companies. I do consulting. I'm the bad guy for hire, if you will. Sometimes I'm on the news. I was on a documentary for PBS for people like trying to get into cybersecurity. I almost had a reality show. We were supposed to shoot our pilot like 2 weeks after the COVID shutdown happened. So, still kind of hoping that'll get picked up. I'd love to be on reality TV. What's wrong with our society that's like the epitome of success? I just want to be on television, but yeah. So there's that. Yeah, I write books. Currently buried under edits of my second book. So yeah, I do a lot of things. I like to say I'm on permanent vacation, but people say that implies that I'm unemployed, which technically I am. I'm employed by myself, but yeah, I don't know. Permanent vacation works for me, but I mean, I do a lot of stuff, but I don't work for anybody else except on a, contractual basis, if you will. And why did I choose my career? Well, really, because, like I said, I didn't want to go back and live with my parents. And my parents were like, we're not just gonna, like, fund your lifestyle so you can, like, party up in Virginia. You're gonna either come home or you're gonna go to school. So, James Madison was like, hey, we'd love to have you in computer science, even though your degree's in math. It's like, okay, why not? So, it was really fortuitous, I guess, that happened, because I did find cybersecurity through that program. Like, the school competed in something called the Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, and it was a very grueling competition. Basically, you're the defenders, which nobody wants to be the defenders. You want to be the penetration testers like me. You want to be the red team, the bad guys for fun. But they had the bad guys, they had the red team, and I was like, okay, I want to be like them. I definitely want to be like them. So, that became my career goal. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I did. I was just like, okay, I'm doing that. And, I mentioned previously that there wasn't really a lot of like career fair opportunities at Mary Baldwin when I was there. Granted, that was a long time ago. I really hope that's changed. But the thing about, at JMU, at one of the like bigger schools, and we're not that far outside of DC, a couple hours down, all the government contractors were just coming down, and they just like, we want anybody who's in, cybersecurity and computer science at all. Like, I in no way had to prove that I knew anything about what I was talking about in order to get my first job. Just the fact that, I was getting a master's degree from James Madison, which, let's face it, is not Harvard, but they were just, like, desperate for people. And probably the number one thing I always get asked by people who want to be cybersecurity people are, like, how do I get a job? And I'm like, well, I was really lucky they just gave me one, even though I really didn't know that much. I mean, I knew I could write on, like, the test, like, this is how you secure cyber things, but in terms of like real practical skill, I didn't have any at the time, and yet, it just happened. But, I did, after I got the first job, I did, take the time to, learn the practical skills, like, even now, still continue, with my education to, keep up with, what's the latest and greatest in security. So, I think that's really, the big thing, which I think is a question later about like, how do you get into security? So yeah, that was actually the next question. How'd you get your job? I just answered that. Yay me. What do you enjoy most and what is most challenging for you? I assume that's about my job. I enjoy being able to kind of decide what I want to do. I'm really lucky in that regard that, I am at a point in my career and have been for a while where I can, kind of choose the jobs that interest me. If I get a job that, is maybe not in my wheelhouse, that's really kind of the most interesting to me, something that will, force me to learn more, push my boundaries of, what I know and what I'm capable of. Whereas something that's more boring, I might be able to just turn it down. Most challenging for me is definitely they tell you this. It's always the thing. I remember when I was in middle school, when people were so mean to me and I was always teased and ostracized. One of the many reasons I decided to go to PEG, mind you, is that, when you grow up, like, popularity doesn't matter. It's only, like, how smart you are, which is absolute nonsense. That's totally not true. So much of who gets the job or who gets this or whatever, or how you move through the world really does have to do with social skills. And I think particularly for smart women, we're kind of put in this bucket of like, oh you're like smart in technical areas, it's cool, you get to be like one of the boys, because you have to be one of the boys to make it in these male dominated industries, which is really stupid. But like the soft skills, the more traditionally feminine ones, oh, those are bad skills, we don't want those, we don't need those in our industry. We're a male dominated technical industry, which is complete nonsense. I mean, and I'm gonna have to splice this together because, yeah, somebody just called me in the middle of it, though I swear I had do not disturb on. So anyway, so yeah, soft skills are considered bad and more feminine, and that's really stupid. And you need those more than anything. I mean, even what I do, I have to convey to my client like what I was able to find and how they can fix it. So without like ability to communicate, it's all just pointless. Getting the contracts, you gotta meet with people and be cordial and things like that. So definitely the autism thing, the social skills have never really been my strong point, but they're something I continue to work on all the time. So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge for me is the more softer skills that I was almost encouraged not to work on for so long. It was like, oh, you get to be one of the boys because you're technical, and it's like, no, we all need to have a well-rounded skill set. This whole like masculine skills and feminine skills is nonsense. We really need to get past this as a society. What is needed to be successful in your field? The really great thing about cybersecurity is there's not really any, if you compare it to like being a doctor or being a lawyer, you have to take the MCAT, you have to go to med school, you have to go to residency, blah, blah, blah. I mean, obviously, they want you to know what you're doing, if you're going to save lives and things like that. With cybersecurity, there's not really any set path you have to do. I mean, like I said, it certainly helped having the degrees to get my foot in the door. But I know a lot of people who are really successful in cybersecurity who, don't even have a degree, or, they got their degree after they got into management, after being successful for a really long time without it. So there's not really any career path. I mean, you don't have to major in computer science, you don't have to do cybersecurity. I mean, that's what I really like about the industry, is a lot of people who perhaps were late bloomers, or got in some trouble when they were young and then turned their life around, have been able to find a lot of success in cybersecurity that they pretty much have to start over and do like 8 years of school before they could even like get their foot in the door in a lot of other industries. So I think that's really one of the great things about my industry, and that one of the things that makes it so dynamic and has so many people with a lot of really great ideas to move the state of security forward, is it does take people from all sorts of backgrounds. And what is your greatest professional accomplishment? Oh, that's a hard one. Staying alive. I don't know. The book definitely, though, when the second one comes out, I think a lot of people will be very happy with me. And yeah, I've kind of been behind deadlines for a long time. And so definitely the book. I wanted to be a writer when I was young. I wanted to be a writer. It's not like I was studying writing or anything. I mean, I always scribbled in my notebook, but, I guess I always saw myself as I was going to be a novelist. I was going to be, David Foster Wallace or whatever. But magically, just out of the sky, like, not out of, that I spent years and years, like, studying writing. It was just going to happen, like most people think when they're really young. So definitely, publishing a book and it being successful, and being in all the languages, and it's sold, a lot of copies for, I think it's sold like over 30,000 now. So, that's pretty cool for, it being a tech book. That's a lot. So it's definitely more successful than I ever thought it would be. And, also, definitely the companies managing to stay afloat. I don't, like I said, a lot of the skills to run a company, or soft skills that I've really had to work on, so that, you know, that I've managed to come as far as I have in terms of like managing people and, you know, getting the right paperwork to the right places at the right time, has been a real accomplishment. You know, I'm hoping that, you know, if we'd done this a little bit later, I would actually have some new ones, because I applied to do a Fulbright at Oxford for next year, and was actually guest lecture at Oxford. I was over in England for a different lecture, and the PhD program in cybersecurity at Oxford asked me to come do a guest lecture. While I was there, they were like, hey, you know, there's this Fulbright for the UK and the US to do cybersecurity stuff. So I applied for that, you know, fingers crossed. But, you know, since Oxford wants me to come, I think I might get it. I also applied to do something called Tech Congress, which is basically you are a advisor on cybersecurity to a congressperson. So if I get that, that'll be a bit more out of my wheelhouse. You know, I'm real technical and stuff. Been really working on the soft skill stuff though, so, you know, hopefully I'll get that. And let's see, but things I've actually done, I did get pretty early on in my career a DARPA Cyber Fast Track grant. So it was actually, I got government funding to work on, you know, my mobile security research, which led to me starting the first company, and the second company, the product is actually based on that work. So, you know, that was pretty cool. Yeah, the 6-continent speaker thing is pretty awesome. You know, I've gotten to see a lot of the world and have other people pay for it, which has been really great. So yeah, I mean, a few different things. I don't really have I guess the book is probably, but, you know, since I'm buried under the second one, the book really just, you know, feels like the sword of Damocles at this point. But yeah, generally thinking, I think probably the book would be the greatest professional accomplishment. And let's see, did you ever imagine being where you are today at 14 years old? No, I mean, like I said, I was going to be a novelist, but magically out of the sky, I don't know. I had the emotional maturity of a rock when I was 14. You know, I had no idea what life was going to bring, or none of the tools to even begin to analyze, like, what life would bring when I was 14. And as I, you know, talked about a little bit earlier, you know, I think that the PEG environment, the Mary Baldwin environment really, you know, was a really great place for me to kind of develop a lot of that. You know, the other girls, the best part though, just wait until you're senior, because you're going to be like the same age as the freshman, but you're going to know all this stuff. You will have been there for, you know, 3 years. So you're going to know, you know, all the ins and outs. You're going to be able to like be the wise mentor person. That's going to be fun. So yeah, I really had no idea what I was getting into at 14. There's just no two ways about it. I really just was like, la la la, everything will be fine. Or, I'm having huge anxiety about nothing. So, yeah, definitely not. I don't necessarily think I was mature enough to go to PEG even. I mean, this isn't really a question, but I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, I had never had to study, you know, mostly, at least where I went to school. You know, I'm from Mississippi, so, you know, I make jokes that it's lucky I can read. I'm allowed to do that because, you know, I'm from Mississippi, so I can make those kinds of jokes. But yeah, I'm lucky that I can read. But, you know, the kinds of things that I guess we were taught in school, it was really just memorization. So it was like, you know, the teacher said it, and then that was what was on the test. So I basically got 100 on everything, because basically photographic memory. But, you know, then going from, you know, the 8th grade science in Mississippi to, you know, taking organic chemistry and calculus and stuff, and it was just like, whoa. So yeah, I didn't know how to study. I had no idea. I'd never like even cracked a textbook in my life, as much as I like to read. I don't know. So yeah, I was not prepared for PEG in that way. And I was also like, had this like ridiculous like inferiority complex. I felt like if I asked for help, that, you know, made me less of a person. So it's not like I was gonna go to math tutoring when I was having problem in calculus. No, definitely wasn't gonna do that. So, and then I was like such a perfectionist that I think it was my first semester I got all A's except for I got a B plus in chemistry, oddly enough. And that was it. I was just like, okay, I'm never going to have a 4.0. So, I mean, who cares? So, yeah, I definitely did not have a lot of the emotional maturity that I needed. And definitely, if I can give you guys any advice, definitely like, I imagine a lot of you are probably in the same boat that you've never really had to like work at it before, but if you're gonna be good at something, you're gonna have to work at it. I mean, you've probably seen the Good Will Hunting movie and stuff like that, and I guess Queen's Gambit just came out on Netflix where, she sees the chessboard on the ceiling. I mean, those aren't really realistic, representations of like genius or whatever. I mean, I think, anybody who really goes far in their chosen profession does have to work at it really hard. It doesn't just magically come to your head. I mean, Mozart is, I guess, always known as he could just play, but his dad was making him play 10 hours a day from like birth, and beating him with a stick if he made a mistake. So I mean, I think it is going to be hard work, and it is it not just magically being in your head doesn't mean you're not smart. And, I imagine a lot of you probably came from the same sort of thing where up until now it has been really easy. And especially with that jump to, all the missing grades, I think that, it can be a real like, am I actually not that smart after all? And you can get really discouraged. So don't, because, that's just normal. And yeah, reach out for help and stuff. Definitely do better than I did. And if you get a B plus, it's not the end of the world. Like, having a 4.0 is something that you'll like be able to brag about like while you're in school. And it's honestly never come up ever again what my GPA was in school after, I was done with school. Okay, it may have came up when I was applying to teach at University of Maryland, but it wasn't like, did you get a 4.0? It was like, did you get better than like a 2.0 or whatever the magic number of like inadequacy was in order to be allowed to teach there. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about it that much. And what do you see yourself doing in 10 years? Well, I've obviously gotten so much more emotional maturity that I have no idea. Probably still stuff in cybersecurity. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of trying to branch out, kind of do more things with government, do more, research like the Fulbright. Hopefully I will have sold one of the companies at least. Maybe I'll be super rich and, I can be exactly like I am now, except bigger and bolder. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Definitely my second book and my third and my fourth and all the myriad books that come after will have come out. Definitely. I think, the biggest thing is I want to, well, maybe I'll be a reality star by then, who knows? I want to, continue to mentor, other people, particularly women and minorities. I think I was really lucky. I mentioned my mom has a PhD in computer science, so I was lucky that I had that image to look at. And, when people are like, oh, girls can't computer, I was able to be like, yeah, that's nonsense, which I think a lot of people don't have that. And, they get a lot of that still, that, this stuff is for boys. And I really want to be that figure, which is one of the reasons I want to be on reality TV, is so that I can be, that beacon of, yeah, you can do this. And I think we're coming a long way, but particularly when I was starting out, it was really, there was like the girls slot or the female slot. So you weren't really competing against the men, you were competing against the other women to get like the one slot. If there were like 50 speakers, there was going to be one female. So it was really hard to be supportive of other women because, if they got it, it meant you didn't. So it was really like the system was pitting us against each other, which it has gotten a lot better in that regard. But I think there still is a lot of, ingrained like societal things that, make us be harder on each other. That, it's not really our fault because, what can you do? You want to be successful, but, I'm really trying to break out of stuff like that, break out of, my own, like, ingrained inner like sexism that is just, you know, what society ingrains in you, and, you know, be, you know, more of a mentor for, you know, other women, and, you know, a champion for other women and minorities, you know, in our industry, and you know, the world at large. So, you know, I really want to make, I guess, you know, a bigger impact than just in cybersecurity to, you know, more of the world at large with, you know, some of the stuff I'm pursuing now, like the Tech Congress. What advice would you give to someone interested in pursuing the same career path? Be yourself. Like, the things that make you unique are the things that are going to get you where you want to go. I mean, at least for me, you know, I struggled so long to fit in a box because the box was what was expected. The box was how you got from point A to point B. But the thing was, I could never fit in the box. And no matter how hard I tried, I always failed at fitting in the box. And, you know, I've been lucky that I've found cybersecurity where people who are a bit outside of the box are more allowed. And, I mean, that's certainly not the only career path where that's true. But, you know, I think that, you know, embracing your own uniqueness is really important. I mean, the amount of time I wasted, like, just trying to be, I mean, you guys are too young for this, but, you know, there's that Pink song, and the line is in it, it's like, LA told me I could be a pop star, but all I had to change was everything you are, kind of thing. Don't change who you are. Just be who you are, because that's what's going to make you great. That would be, regardless of your career path, that would be my advice. What do I do for fun? Well, you can kind of see some horse ribbons over there. I rode horses before I went to PEG. I quit when I came to PEG. Most people quit when they go to college. And I guess about 4 years ago, I was in a startup accelerator, and so it was like, you burn yourself out all the time. You really need to have fun. You need to do something besides work. So I was like, well, I used to ride. I'll go take a riding lesson. And now I have 3 horses, and we compete all the time on the weekends, and it's arguably, you know, my second job, which it takes up a lot of my time and effort, but it's definitely a lot of fun. I don't really do things halfway, so, you know, my riding is just, you know, another thing that I obsess about. But yeah, so, I mean, that's my main thing. I mean, luckily, a lot of what I do is fun, so, you know, I don't really have the, like, work and then non-work, because a lot of the work is a lot of fun. And, you know, I do have the riding, and I've actually gotten back into video games. I hadn't really played since I got out of grad school, but Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, and I was just like, so it was one of my favorite games when I was young, is Final Fantasy VII, so I had to play the remake. So I've kind of gotten back into video games. Lots of time wasting there, but yeah, that's me. I've definitely gone over. This is supposed to be like 30 minutes, and like I said, I gotta splice it together. I think it's a phone call, but yeah, thank you guys for your time. You know, your staff knows how to get in touch with me, you know, Georgia@bulbsecurity.com, or Twitter or whatever. And, you know, if you guys have any questions or anything, I mean, we're all kind of, you know, not like as close as perhaps we used to be, but definitely the people I went to school with, you know, we're all in a Facebook group together, and we're all Facebook friends, and we talk about PEG a lot. So yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people would love to do this as well. So, you know, definitely, I hope things are going well for you, and if they're not going well for you, it gets better, guys. It really does. But yeah, you really enjoy, like, the PEG college experience, and it really is a unique and interesting and really fun time. You know, it can be really stressful too, but definitely a really fun time of your life. So, you know, thank you guys for your time. I'll let you go back to studying or doing what else you guys are up to. So again, thanks. Bye.